In light of the most recent developments in the conflict, the leader of Russia, Vladimir Putin, spoke as follows. "We tried everything to solve the Donbass crisis, but the West was prepared for another scenario." Putin made the announcement that Ukraine would be attacked while claiming that Kiev had attempted to negotiate armament sales with Western nations prior to the conflict. Putin has been quoted as saying they launched the conflict and we had to stop it by. Putin says Russia's existence is in danger. Putin stated that Western nations are attempting to turn the conflict in Ukraine into a global conflict with Russia, and that the existence of Russia is in jeopardy. He went on to say that they are planning to turn the local conflict into a global conflict. "That is how we understand it, and we will react according." Putin stated they don't care about the tragedy that people are undergoing. Here, he blamed the West for letting the genie out of the bottle. They strive to make their voices heard under the pretext of democracy, but all they accomplish is sticking labels on other nations. Putin asserted that the government in Kiev was to blame for the rise in casualties, and stated, Western elites are accountable for the condition of events in military support alert from Putin. Putin issued a warning to the Western nations telling them not to give Ukraine any extra military assistance, and he stated that any such assistance would trigger a military reaction from Russia. Putin has stated that it is impossible to defeat Russia on the plain. The Russian leader followed his statement by saying the following: "The more long-range weaponry that are given to Ukraine, the further we will remove the threat from our borders." Putin stated, "The West is using Ukraine as leverage against Russia while making the accusation that the West seeks to have unrestricted authority in international affairs. The war will." The head of Russia made a commitment to carrying out Moscow's offensive in Ukraine in a methodical manner. The intensity that was experienced during Putin's address caused the website of the state broadcaster All Russian State Television and Radio Broadcasting Company to crash, which was announced by international agencies. In a separate announcement, Putin stated that Russia will withdraw from the new strategic arms reduction. Putin stated that the Western world today anticipates the collapse of the Russian economy, but that the Russian economy has only contracted by 2.2%. In 2022, Ukraine's response to remarks made by Vladimir Putin. There was no lag in time between Putin's comments and the Ukrainian state's reaction to. Alexander Skarba, the ambassador of Ukraine to Austria, posted the following message on Twitter in which he made the following statements. Putin is at work again with his typical grievances. The most important was that Western nations and Ukraine had been preparing for conflict with Russia as if there hadn't been an ultimatum from Russia. It's as if Macron and Scholz didn't spend all of 2021 pleading with Russia not to do it while they were in Moss. What a lie they are. The story that was published in the British publication The Sun stated that an armored convoy belonging to Vladimir Putin was spotted making its way to the Kremlin in the wee hours of the morning. Do you believe that Putin could end up losing the war in the space provided for comments? You are welcome to provide your response to this inquiry. Putin lost touch with. A comment was made by Paddock, who is an advisor to President Zelensky of Ukraine in regards to the address that Russian President Putin gave before the Federal Assembly. Paddock, there is no movement in Russia at this time. According to Paddock, Putin's statement was evidence that he had become detached from the actual. Is quoted as having observed he is in a completely other reality. In its reality, there is no way to hold a discourse about justice and international law. Chaos will grow. The Ukrainian lawmaker claimed Russia is in a deadlock and went on to say that Russia is in the most terrible situation possible. He also said that whatever Moscow does from now on would only worsen the situ, adding that Putin is confused and does not fully comprehend the situation. Paddock claimed that this position will generate more challenges for Russia in the near future. This situation will cause more difficulties for Russia. He stated this indicates that there will be an increase in anarchy, both on the battlefield and in Russia. The video of the Ukrainian soldier went. A video of exceptional quality was transmitted from the front lines in Ukraine. A video has surfaced showing a member of the Ukrainian armed forces accidentally shooting his comrade while the two were playing with a gun. Despite the fact that over 1 year has passed since the conflict between Russia and Ukraine began, intriguing photographs continued to emerge from the front lines. A Ukrainian soldier tragically passed away. In a video that was circulated on Telegram, there was footage of a Ukrainian soldier killing a friend who was on camera while the friend was toying with his gun. The friend was also filming the incident. Once the pistol went off, the video recording was stopped. But it was discovered that the soldier who was shot had a wound to the head and ultimately passed away. Despite all of the attempts to save him, is China sending weapons to? The accusation made by the Secretary of State of the United States, Anthony Blinken, that China will help Russia with weapons and ammunition for use in the conflict in Ukraine has been refuted by the administration in Beijing, yet already China has established itself as a significant economic partner for Russia, and there is a possibility that Beijing is giving military intelligence to Russian forces stationed in. Every day, China is becoming more proficient in the production of military hardware. At the moment, it is the fourth greatest exporter of armaments in the whole wide world. According to the research of Simon Weissman of the Stockholm International Peace Research Center, the level of technological sophistication of China's armaments has increased according to Weissman. China. Drones, for example, could very well be of tremendous interest too. China is conducting covert operations. The United States claims that Chinese businesses have already supplied non-lethal support to Russia, and there is information available today that suggests Beijing is also capable of providing deadly help to Moscow. U.S. has issued a warning that China could face severe consequences as a result of these tensions. According to Maria Shana, an expert on economic sanctions at the International Institute for Strategic Studies, China may be covertly selling high-tech products to Russia that have the potential to be used for military purposes. This is despite the fact that China is not openly providing armed support to Russia. The Chinese government utilizes Front C. There is evidence that China is the largest exporter of semiconductors to Russia, often through front companies in Hong Kong and the United Arab Emirates. Shana said, adding that some Chinese companies are also taking advantage of the gray area between military and civilian drones for the production of civilian drones. There is evidence that China is the largest exporter of semiconductors to Russia, Shana. According to the Center for Advanced Defense Studies, which is located in the United States, it is possible that Chinese companies are shipping electronic components for anti-aircraft missile radars to Russia. A Chinese corporation has been hit with sanctions by the United States government after allegations surfaced that it provided satellite imagery to the Russian mercenary group Wagner. In what ways does China help? After Russia invaded Ukraine on February 24, 2022, Western nations quickly responded by imposing severe sanctions on the Russian government. Among these measures was the prohibition on both the import of oil and the export of high-tech goods. A significant number of Western companies severed all relations with Russia, which resulted in a decline in Russia's commerce with the United States, the United Kingdom, and European Union countries through 2022. On the other hand, the total value of China's trade with Russia hit a new high of $190 billion in 2022 as compared to the previous year. This is a rise that is equivalent to 30. The value of Russia's exports to China rose by 43%, reaching $114 billion, while the value of Russia's imports from China reached $76 billion, a 13% increase the year before last. Russia's trade with the West was a complete disaster. China has overtaken the United States as Russia's most important trading. How much oil and natural gas does China purchase from Russia each year? China received 2 times as much liquefied petroleum gas (LPG) from Russia in 2022 as it had received the previous year by the pipeline known as Power of Siberia, which connected Russia and China. Moscow sent an additional 50% of the natural gas it produced to Beijing in the year 2020. In addition, compared to 2021, China's imports of crude oil from Russia increased by a factor of 10%. This helps to somewhat compensate for the amount of revenue that Russia lost from sales of oil and gas to the EU. In the previous year, in 2021, Russia fulfilled 40% of EU gas imports. However, in 2022, this percentage remained unchanged at 15%. In addition, while it exported 26% of its oil to the EU in 2021, that percentage did not change to 20% in 2022. It remained at 14% throughout the decade. The sale of oil and gas contributes close to half of each year's total income to the Russian government. To limit the amount of money that can be spent on military operations by the Kremlin, the countries that make up the Group of 7 G7, the European Union and Australia have imposed a worldwide ceiling on the price of Russian oil transported by sea. But China did not comply with this cap, and instead purchased crude oil from Russia at rates determined by the market. It is Russia's intention to increase the amount of electricity it ships to. The two nations came to an agreement to construct a new gas pipeline that would be known as Power of Siberia. 2. In 2019, the pre-existing line was placed into service with a contract that was valued over $400 billion during its duration of 30 years. On the other hand, it is unclear when the brand new gas pipeline that is being constructed in Siberia will be put into operation. An amusing claim made by Trump. A hasty statement was released by Donald Trump, who had previously served as President of the United States, former President of the United States. Donald Trump has suggested that if he wins the presidential election in 2024, he will end the conflict in Ukraine in a matter of hours by immediately calling the leaders of both Russia and. If he does win, Trump says he will end the conflict in Ukraine in a matter of hours. When asked at a rally in Florida what he will do to end the conflict, Donald Trump, who is campaigning to return to the presidency of the United States in the November 2024 election, said that he would take action before he takes an oath and takes office. Trump is running for re-election to the presidency of the United States in the November 2024. Trump has made the announcement that he will meet with Vladimir Putin and Zelensky. Trump elaborated as follows: "I do not begin making phone calls until the day I actually take office. Rather, I begin doing so the night I win. I will get in touch with 2 people, Vladimir Putin, the president of Russia, and Vladimir Zelensky, the president of Ukraine. In addition, I will talk to both of. I promise that I can find a solution to this issue. I'll tell you within the next day, we will have reached a consensus. My connection with Putin is one of the best in the world." Republican Donald Trump has asserted that continuing to send money into Ukraine is delaying the peaceful resolution of the conflict, and causing the deaths of a significant number of. Trump said that because of his personal friendship with Putin, he would have been able to avoid the hostilities in Ukraine before they even began if he had been president during that time. Putin and I have an extremely cordial working relationship. If I were president, I would make it absolutely impossible for Putin to enter Ukraine. Trump remarked this is possibly the most difficult question that has ever been posed to. Trump at the Helsinki summit on July 16, 2018, declared that he believed Russian President Vladimir Putin's comments more than the reports of American intelligence agency, and sparked outrage commenting about the situation. Trump stated, "The media is attacking me with this statement. Who do you trust? Your intelligence officers. Kamai, McCabe, Strzak, Lisa. To tell you the truth, this is probably the most difficult question a politician has ever asked me. The moment I provided an answer that wasn't very good, oh my, all hell broke loose. But it's okay. You know, it's okay. It ended up that I was correct in my assessment. There was another area in which I was." The question that caused President Trump to become flustered in a joint press conference held in Helsinki with Vladimir Putin. Donald Trump stated that the investigation that was carried out over the allegation that Russia interfered in the elections was a disaster for the United States, that it alienated the United States and Russia from each other, that he did not make any collusion with Russia, and that this was the case, as everyone knows it to be the case. He also stated that the investigation was a disaster for him personally, and that he did not make any collusion with Russia. After then, the journalists posed the following question to the president: who do you trust? Your own intelligence service's assessment of Russia's meddling in the 2016 elections or Putin's denial? Who do you? Trump provided an answer that was ambiguous. I have a lot of faith in the people who work for my intelligence agency, but as president of the Russian Federation, I will tell you today that you are extraordinarily strong and forceful. In your denial, you can tell them that Putin replied that it was not Russia that did this. According to what he said, I don't see any reason why Russia should have done it. The investigation has been wrapped. When some time had passed, the public became aware of written correspondence, which demonstrated that former FBI officials, Lisa Page and Peter Strzok, had plotted to smear Donald Trump. After completing his investigation, Special Counsel Robert Mueller, who had previously served as director of the FBI, announced that he had come to the conclusion that there was no evidence of collusion with Russia to influence in the 2016. What are your thoughts on what President Trump said? Do you believe that Donald Trump can bring an end to the war?